Hello, and welcome back to the Author Roundup, a special segment of the Book Connection Show, where we meet up-and-coming indie authors and talk to them about their published books. Join us as we sit down with our next guest author. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Author Roundup. I have author Stephen Clark Waiters here. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Good. Nice to meet you too. Can you tell us a little bit about your, not one, but 3 books?
Sure. So the first book, The Lost Treasure of Grandpa Jingle Wingle, it is...
I love that title, by the way. That's a good title.
There's a history behind that. So when I was a kid, my dad would drop me off at daycare on his way to work. He was a pipe fitter, and so he'd drop me off on his way to work at daycare. And we'd always drive by this spooky old abandoned house. And I just remember looking at it out the window every day as a kid. And one day I asked my dad who lived there, and he said, "Oh, that's your Grandpa Jingle Wingle." And I said, "Really?" He just made it up off the top of his head. And he goes, "Just make sure you never go there because he's really mean and he's really cranky, and people disappear when they go visit that old house." And so that's where I got the title from.
Oh my gosh, that must be that was probably terrifying at your age too.
It was. I just remember looking at it. Yeah, every time I'd pass it. So The Lost Treasure of Grandpa Jingle Wingle is a story about 2 sixth graders, Albert and Ben, and they discover a gold coin in that old abandoned house that I was just talking to you about. And then that sets in motion a series of encounters with there's two bank robbers, 3 eighth grade bullies. There's a system of underground caves and tunnels that they discover. And then, of course, there's a lost treasure of gold coins. Mm-hmm. They learn that there's been a kidnapping, and they come across the kidnapper's trail. So they decide, let's follow it. And so they do follow the trail, and it takes them into that system of caves and tunnels. They have one old flashlight, and when the batteries start to go dead, they realize they might have gotten themselves in a bit of trouble.
That's so funny. And then what about your latest book?
Well, the one before that's called The Mummy Hand. And so those 2 books, I call them accidental adventures, because the main characters are Amber and Stevie, which they're my own kids. So I use them.
I was going to ask you that because I read that you have 2 kids, and I was like, okay, these kids on the cover, maybe his kids, I don't know, because you're a teacher, maybe if they are inspired by like 2 of your students, but I was like, they're probably his kids.
No, they're my real kids, yeah. And they're grown up now. So The Mummy Hand is where Amber and Stevie are visiting their grandma, and they discover this mummified hand hidden behind a false wall in their basement, in the grandma's basement. And they learn by accident that this mummy hand can transport objects and people to like a strange Egyptian world where time stands still and statues come to life. And there's this group of pirates that have been stranded there for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so this neighbor boy, he's a snoopy neighbor boy, he gets a hold of the hand, and he accidentally transports Amber and Stevie there. So they're stuck in that weird world with those pirates, and they have to figure out a way to get back home. But everything in it is kind of an accidental adventure, which is kind of how Amber and Stevie are. They're watching them grow up. Everything they experienced was kind of like this accidental adventure. We'd walk outside and they'd look left and there'd be a lizard, and they'd go chase after the lizard. There'd be some adventure that would happen with that. And so it's kind of how I wrote my books, kind of like an accidentally.
I love that.
Yeah, they experience the adventure accidentally. And then, the latest book is Time is Forever, and it's a year later, and Amber and Stevie are back in their grandma's basement. And behind that false wall, they discover a golden sphere that's about the size of a softball. Mm-hmm. And they learn by accident that it's a time machine, and it can take them to different times. And so they decide to use it to go back in time to stop an accident that happened. And while they're traveling through time, they have some adventures stopping here and there, but then the time machine gets broken and they get stuck in time. So they got to figure out a way to get home. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So when I hear your stories, like when I was looking at the descriptions and reading about your books, they remind me so much of like Goonie vibes or like Jumanji. Like, where does your like that's instantly what I thought of. Where does your inspiration come from? And obviously, I can see behind you that I see like Woody. Like, you have like really cool memorabilia. So
Yeah. Well, let's see. Well, I grew up in a small town on the coast, right next to the
Mhm.
ocean. So I spent my youth surfing and riding motorcycles, and then later in life, I did mountain biking and scuba diving. So I've always had this sense of adventure. I was in seventh grade, and we had a teacher. She was a fun teacher. She'd play music every day in class, so nobody did their work. We just sat and listened to music.
That's not bad.
It was fun until my mom and dad got my report card.
I was like, oh.
I got an F in English, and my mom, who was a teacher, she was really mad, and she said, "Okay, you're going to come straight home from school, and every day you're going to write. You're going to fill up a piece of paper front and back." And I said, "Well, what do you want me to write?" And she said, "Whatever you want." And then so I came home from school that first day, and I sat down, and I didn't know what to write, so I just wrote, "I hate this. I 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 hate this." And I thought, yeah, I'm really going to get my mom with that. And so she came home and she looked at it. She goes, "Okay, good job. Same thing tomorrow." I'm like, oh. So the next day came home and I wrote, "This is dumb. This is dumb. This is dumb. This is dumb." She came home and did the same thing. And the third day, I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. So my
Can't
friend,
keep doing this.
yeah, my friend and I, we kind of stumbled upon a little adventure on the way home from school that day. So I wrote about it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of fun writing about that. And then my mom read it and said, "That's great." And then I kind of ran out of real stuff to write about. So I started making up like little adventure stories. And it was like, well, this is actually fun. And then I look forward to actually coming home and writing that paper. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of the process.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you have three books. How long did it take you to write, let's say, like, your first one? So that was like your first like book.
Well, I have quite a few completed manuscripts. Yeah, anywhere from 2 years to several years, because I'll get stuck on one and I'll put it away and I'll get the other one out. So the first one, I think I started when I was in college, so it probably took a long time, many years
Mhm.
to finally get it done. Yeah.
And then, so your second and third book, was that like a little easier, you would say, to write, since they were kind of, they were based on your kids, and then the first one, the Mummy Hand, and then the second one was probably to that one was maybe a little easier to write after that, would you say?
Yeah, that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
they got easier and easier.
So what was your writing experience like?
Well, I'm a full-time dad, full-time
Right.
husband, full-time son. I'm a full-time teacher. I've been teaching from
Mm-hmm.
first grade for 31 years.
Oh, wow.
So finding time was really hard. So I would get up early in
Mm-hmm.
the morning when the house was quiet, and I would
Mm-hmm.
learn to write then. So, I was never been a full-time author or anything like that.
Yeah, I know. I feel like with authors, writers, it's you hear a lot about making the time and prioritizing it. Because at first, like, writing is, like a hobby for a lot of authors, or I mean writers, and it's kind of like a hobby slash side hustle. So yeah, it's making the time. What would you say? Have you experienced writer's block, or like what kept you going for completing your manuscripts?
I don't know. My mind like never stops. So even when I'm not sitting down writing, like I'll think of
Mm-hmm.
something. Oh, like I need to include this, or I forgot about doing that. So I'll just find a scrap of paper and write it down and shove it in my
Right.
pocket. And then I get home, I have a drawer. I have all these scraps of paper in a drawer. Then on
Mm-hmm.
those early mornings that I get up early, I go and get them out of the drawer and just kind of see what I need to work on, or what needed to be fixed. But
Right.
I don't know. I do get stuck. Like I'll write myself in a corner,
Mm-hmm.
and then I put that one away and I'll work on another one, and then I'll have that thought later. Oh, this is how I can fix that. But my newest book, Amber and Stevie, they're grown up now. They're 18 and 21. So
Mm-hmm.
I decided not to do any more accidental adventures. It's going to be a young adult mystery novel. I didn't want to get myself written in a corner. So I sat down, I spent a lot of time and I created a whole backstory. And maybe most people do this. I didn't do this originally. And I
Mhm.
have the whole story mapped out. So I know everything that's happening.
Okay.
When I sit down to write a chapter now, I mean, it just flows really quick because I know.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a really good, I guess, like strategy for writing, especially the genre that you're going for as well.
Yeah, because I
That's
wanted
cool.
some twists and turns and more
Right.
characters, and I couldn't just do it off the fly. I had to
Yeah. Where did the inspo for that one come from?
the
That's very different from your other books.
yeah, well, I always like the Hardy Boys, so it's
Oh, nice.
mystery,
Yeah.
but with Amber and Stevie, not the Hardy Boys. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Very cool. What would you say um is the like nicest like review or comments about your book that or books that you've received, would you say?
Well, I don't know how I did it, but I got on the front page of a major newspaper.
Oh, wow. In your hometown?
Well,
Oh,
the town that I work in, I think it was because I was a teacher. So the front page, it was a big article, and then they also put that in on their Facebook page. So when I went and looked at it at Facebook, there were tons of comments, and most of them were my former students.
wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah, they all said the nicest things, and it was just like, wow, I didn't even know they remembered me. So a lot of really nice
Oh,
comments from former students. And then on my web page, I have my email address. So I've gotten several emails from former students too, and some of them are teachers now, and they just wanted to tell me, and
oh, wow. That's amazing. That's so cool.
really
What
rewarding.
what grade did you say you taught?
Sixth grade, 31
Sixth
years,
grade? Oh, wow. What subject do you teach?
everything. It's
So, do your students know that you're an author?
Yeah, and after that article in the newspaper, they think I'm famous, which is funny. Yeah. So yeah, and
Oh,
I got my books in my room, and they're in the library, so they check them out and read them.
oh, that's so cool. Like in your school?
Yeah,
Oh, wow. How does that feel to have your books in a library?
it's pretty rewarding. And then on like student of the month assemblies, our principal will give my book out to some students, for a
Uh-huh.
reward, and then they
Yeah.
come to me and they want an autograph. So that's
Oh, that's so fun.
fun. Yeah.
What advice would you give to a first-time writer or first-time author that is thinking about self-publishing their book?
Well, if if their story's not done, to sit down and complete it. I have
Mhm.
so many people who've told me I've always wanted to write a book, and it's
Mhm.
well, you should do it. I mean, it's one of those things in life that nobody's stopping you, right? You just have to
Right.
try to find the time to do it. And then self-publishing, like I had a contract years ago with the Lost Treasure of Grandpa Jingle Wingle with a literary agent, and nothing really came of that. So then I looked into self-publishing, and that actually, I think that's a really good idea because you can take all that work that you've done, and then
Mhm.
you can actually see it. You can see your reward as a
Mhm.
published book. So I really appreciate the self-publishing industry. I think has a lot of value. And if I was an author just starting out, I would definitely look into that.
I've touched a little bit about this in previous episodes with some of our other authors. But how would you say that the pandemic like affected your writing? Because obviously the pandemic was very, it was a lot for, a lot of people, but in some sense, it for writers, like it got them to start writing seriously and publish their books. Like we've had a lot of authors with us that became first time authors like right after the pandemic or during it. So did you have like an experience with writing during the pandemic, or did you have more time to write, or what was that like for you?
Well, being a teacher, life didn't change much except I didn't have to drive.
Yeah.
I didn't drive to school. Everything was through Zoom. So
Yeah, that's true.
the same every day. I'd get up. have a cup of coffee, get lesson plans ready, and then come sit in front of the computer and then work with kids all day. So I didn't really have any more time to write. It was really neat, though, to be able to see the kids more personally, like in their homes, we get to do. So that was kind of cool. They shared stuff like, hey, look at my dog. Or
well, do you have any goals for this year, like any professional goals or book writing goals? You said that you're working on another book.
Yeah, I'm going to finish that one. I already got the cover designed. Amber and Stevie are older, and it looks pretty cool. Need to finish it.
That's really cool. Are those the actual names of your kids, or are they? Yeah,
So
it is.
my name is Steve, and my son's name is Steve. And I was called Stevie when I was a kid. And then when I got to about sixth grade, I didn't want to be called Stevie anymore.
Oh, I didn't like it.
Just it sounded like too kiddish or whatever.
Oh.
So then when my son was born, everybody called him Stevie. And then when he got to sixth grade, I started to change his name to Steve. And he's like, Dad, I like Stevie. He's in college now and he's still Stevie.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what about your daughter? She's older, right?
She's 21. So she goes to Sonoma State and she wants to be a teacher too. So I named her Amber. And then it just ended up her hair kind of looks amber. So everybody thinks that I named her after she was born, but it was before.
Oh my gosh. So you mentioned, so she wants to be a teacher. You're a teacher. You said your mom was a teacher as well.
Yep. And both my sisters were teachers, and my dad was a pipe fitter. So.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that's a long family of teachers.
Yeah. Well, I remember my dad came home one day from working, being a pipe fitter, and he was really tired and really dirty. And he looked at my mom. It was summer vacation. And he said, hey, Steve, when you grow up, do what your mom does. Don't do what I do. And I looked at my dad and I looked at my mom and I thought, okay.
And you like it? I mean, 30 plus years. That's amazing.
Yeah, the kids are good. Yeah, the kids every year, the kids are the same. It's kind of fun working with kids. There's a lot of other stuff you got to deal with, but
yeah,
working with kids is really good. Keeps you youthful.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like sixth grade is a good year because elementary school, it's a little, kids are so hyper, and then sixth grade is like they're kind of becoming little humans before they get to high school.
Turn into monsters, yeah, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Stephen, so much for joining us today. And is there anything else you would like to share with our audience before we go?
I do have a website, and then I also have a Facebook page that has everything, my website and everything on it. And it's just my name, Stephen Clark Waiters.
And also, if you want to check out his books, you can check out his publications at iuniverse.com, and they also are available on Amazon. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, thank you for watching.
Thank you.